Hi, Matt. I was looking forward to talking to you.
I really get turned on by like good ideas and good stories.
I've been cursed and blessed with an overactive imagination.
If people like it or whether they don't like it, no consequence to me. I prefer that they liked it. Even just saying that made the hairs on my arm stand up.
MattLees Gets Creative contains themes and subjects that may not be suitable for everyone listening. If you're easily offended, we suggest that you get your podcast on elsewhere.
This time on MattLees Gets Creative.
Last year I was performing, this is where it happened, I was performing at Coast to Coast mixtapes. I was doing a worldwide tour trying to look for the next big artist. I was in there, it was like the 8 Mile kind of vibe. You know, they had a hat and they had like all the artists that put their names down, and they'd pull a name out of the hat to see, you know, who would go up first. And I was just you never want to be that first guy because you have to kind of set it off. They actually called my name up first.
Australian hip-hop artist Mugzy is my guest this week. We talked about his inspirations in hip-hop and how to stay driven in Australia, where there's basically no hip-hop scene. We compare our particularly similar journeys through music. We talk about the ups and downs of being an independent musician. We talked about hip-hop, and Mugzy told me how his love for his craft and his passion for his art form almost killed him, literally. That's this week on MattLees Gets Creative. Don't forget to follow us on social media at ML Gets Creative. And if you like the show, please like and subscribe and consider leaving a review. Thanks for listening. Wicked. Nice to talk to you, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you setting this up with me and like even getting back to me. I'm happy to do this interview and, you know, vice versa, promote myself over there and promote you over here, man.
Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about it, you know. So the way the podcast works is basically me talking to other creative people because I'm also a musician. I've talked to writers and actors and directors and artists and musicians. So it's one of those really cool things where I just want to converse with other creative individuals. So I really appreciated you reaching out as well, you know, because there's a lot of things that never happen if you don't just send a message, you know. If you don't just send a DM, there are a lot of things that don't happen. So I'm really glad to be able to talk to you.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, like I'm the same. I love networking. But even just getting on interviews like this and explaining that there is still good hip hop out there, man. I mean, you know, not to sound naive or nothing like that, but just what they're promoting now is really becoming a bit of a joke, in my opinion, man. You know?
Yeah.
Especially this culture that I love. Yeah.
Like, you know, especially all types of music, but especially with that. I mean, my wife calls me a snob because I hear songs on the radio and I'm like, what is this shit? Now, this pod isn't about bashing other songs or anything, but there's one that gets really on my nerves, and I'm sure you'll appreciate it. I don't know if it even plays there. I really hope it doesn't. But this man's chorus is the word a lot. And it's something like, how much money you got? A lot. How many women you slept with? A lot. How many people you hurt? A lot. And it's on the radio all the time here. And as a musician, that breaks my heart. Like, it hurts me. Cuts me, you know?
I think I have heard that, man, but I can top that. I think knowing that I know so many good, hard-working artists out there that bust their ass trying to make this a living, one that just I think is kind of criminal to even sign it and put it out there, man, is that Gucci Gang bullshit, man, by that Lil Pump guy. Man, yeah, like if you're literally willing to sign something, and I always get the argument, well, it's a chance, something that's catchy in your head, but it's like, man, I remember dudes like Will Smith and like, you know, Kid and Play and all these great guys that will really pencil a catchy song. And if you're willing to put like just Gucci Gang on a 4-minute track, that's just whack to me, man. That's just corny.
Yeah.
I can't ride with that, man. You know?
No. And you know, it's all types of. I mean, as a musician, I'm surprised these days when I hear an instrument on the radio. Like when I hear a guitar and drums, I'm like, whoa, these guys are actually playing some instruments because it's all that digital stuff. You know, now for me, I always loved rap and hip hop, but I loved all kinds of music. You know, anything that's a good song is beautiful to me, you know? So whatever the genre, if it's a good, tight song, I'm down. But for me, the formative years of music, I was listening to, I listened to Will Smith because a lot of his songs and his wordplay were awesome. But I was listening to Notorious B.I.G. and Jay-Z and Tupac, and for me it was never albums. It was always like somebody would burn a mixtape, right? A mix CD. I'm old enough to I'm old enough to say when it was tapes. And my boy Neurotic would bring mixtapes in the car, and we'd be listening to that stuff driving around, allegedly smoking blunts, for the character, just for the character, But for me, that was when I fell in love with rap and hip hop. What was it for you? Where was your start for rap and hip hop, where your ears perked up?
Man, honestly, I'm 28, so I've been doing hip hop music for about like 13 years. But I remember getting into the culture of it around roughly the age of 14, and that was kind of like the early thousands era, which was dudes like Eminem, Jay-Z, Nas, DMX, and around that time in high school, man, I wasn't your so-called Mr. Popularity in a sense, and I guess in a sense I was fighting through my adolescence kind of years of just depression and anger and stuff, and like any teenager, man. But instead of choosing a bad path to go down to, I guess, fuel that, I really used hip hop as an inspiration to just write my pain and stuff through rhyme and poetry, man. But when I when I became more older and more mature, I realized that, I didn't want to do it as a culture, because not as a culture, as a music platform, because I feel like I was taking it for granted. I wanted to really find where this culture came from, embrace it, like from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s to what it is now. And I thought that would have made me more of a genuine and better MC, man. And I'm kind of like a white boy, man, but I'm an encyclopedia for hip hop, man.
Yeah. You have I imagine you have the love and the respect for it. Now, I'm ashamed to say I'm almost 10 years older than you, but that makes me feel old. But for me with music, because I play a lot of blues, and I'm also a white boy, right? So I've had those moments where I've been legitimately asked by a Southern true Mississippi bass player, man, what do you know about the blues? And what can I say to him? Like, well, I live in my parents' basement right now. I'm 19. I don't pay any bills, but yeah, I want to play the blues, And I'm sure this guy was like, excuse me? So did you get any of that when you were starting? Did you get any of that? I hate using the term, but that quote unquote white boy thing, that white rapper thing, or, which is what I hope happens, is because cream rises to the top. So they're only going to notice that you're a white rapper for the first couple of bars. At least that's, I guess, what you aim for, right?
Well, even still to this day, man, I mean, like, it's like it was predominantly a black domain of music, and clearly Eminem was the one that broke that mold. Like, I mean, we've had white artists before him, like MC Serge, Pete Nice from Third Base, and Vanilla Ice, and Everlast, and House of Pain, and R.A. the Rugged Man, and I could go down a whole list, but I don't think they had such of a mold as what M did when he came into the scene to, I guess, quote unquote, break that domain for white artists to have a voice, because a lot of the other guys were kind of underground. Like Vanilla Ice was more poppy than hip hop, but when you do claim yourself to be a rapper, like I even get it to this day, even in 2019. It's like, oh, what kind of music you do? And it's like, oh, I do hip hop music. And they like look at you like, are you still on that Eminem Wigger shit? And it's kind of like it makes me laugh, man, because I feel like it just shows how close-minded you are to, and I could like body you in knowledge that it would just make you have to walk away, But with the like African Americans or the black side of it, yeah, I mean, I've had ones where it's like you're white and you're in the culture of hip hop. How do you, I guess, earn your respect, kind of thing, in a sense, to answer your question? And I just say, man, that is the reason why I wanted to learn where I came from and not just take it for granted. Like, hey, I'm a rapper, I'm gonna write rhymes and stuff. No, I really wanted to study, learn, and embrace it. And when they see that I've done that, it's more of a better it's more of a cultural acceptance than, hey, I'm just a white boy that's just trying to rap. If that makes sense, man.
Yeah, no,
You know,
it
'cause I got
totally
that-
does.
Yeah.
I played a lot of open mic type nights where it's every type of artist is welcome. I've played gigs with all kinds of artists, and unfortunately, I've played gigs with guys that kind of just downloaded an Eminem instrumental and then just kind of screamed at you for 3 minutes, and I respect them having the balls to get up there and do it, I guess, but there's a huge difference, and I listened to a bunch of the links that you sent me, which we can include in our show notes so that people can also check them out. And you are not typical white rapper, right? And that's awesome. That's the best thing you want to hear when. And unfortunately, I don't know why everyone would look at you first and go, "Oh, he's a rapper." Your first thought is inevitably going to be, "Oh, he's a white guy doing rap. I wonder what this is going to sound like." But then you listen to it, and it's great stuff. There is no part of it that's like, "Oh, this is just some white guy trying to be Eminem," right? And I mean that with respect, because a lot of guys don't have that different style, that different sound, which I think that you do have. So perhaps that's why you've been able to sit and stay in the industry, the era. There's a word you used for it. The culture.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man, because like I said, I mean, there's a balance between, like pulling that whole Malibu's Most Wanted wig of shit, man,
Right.
and like actual white guys that really love this culture to death and would do, it's kind of like their heart and soul, and I feel that, it's we get muddled into the same crew in a sense. And there goes my watch. I don't know where I've put it. My bad, man. If you can hear that beeping.
That's okay.
I feel it's kind of sad in a sense, man. Like me personally, because I work 110% at my craft, and I always get the stereotype of, oh, he's doing the wigger kind of stuff, and it's just like, man. You can't just have to brush it off your shoulder, man, and just keep rolling with the punches, man.
Yeah.
Man, like just hopefully it's a brighter day where it becomes more of a cultural acceptance more than a stereotyping acceptance. That's me personally, man.
Yeah, well, you definitely, that's something you have to earn. It's, we always talk about like respect has to be earned. It's not given, especially when it comes to music, and especially when it comes to rap or hip hop, and especially if you're a white guy doing that thing, especially if you're a white guy singing the blues, I can't go up there and do your standard typical stuff, because it's nowhere near the same amount of pressure and the amount of effect on the culture, but it's a similar idea that I'm able to compare.
And it kind of feels good in the sense, man. Like sometimes I do interviews with dudes from the States or where it originated from, and because Australia is so isolated from everything, they become so not starstruck, like so dumbfounded that like I know more knowledge or what arose from it than actual dudes in the States, and that should be knowing where it's come from. And it's kind of sad in a sense, man, because I'm so isolated, but it's kind of like I just rather not fall to what they're doing now, like with the money and the fame and all that kind of stuff. I'd rather have a cultural acceptance than be like this fucking like mumbling, garbage what they're promoting now, man.
Yeah, and it's so much of it too. So like I hear stuff on the radio, and there was many years ago where I was on that chase, and I was on that, play with the band 5-6 nights a week, writing originals, writing an album. Oh man, we're gonna get signed, we're gonna go on tour, we're gonna play everywhere. That's what we wanted to do. That was the young dream, right? But now when I hear stuff, I'm like, well, if that's how I'd have to be to do it, I wouldn't want to do it anyway. Because that's not, and people always say, yeah, bullshit. If I offered you $1 million, you'd do it. Okay. Yeah. Show me the money and maybe I will write a pop song. Right. But in reality, if I play now that I play, a few times a year, because I play more recorded rather than go out and play live, but only because I got bored of the quote unquote culture of it all, which maybe we can go into with regards to live experiences and live performances in Australia as well. But I'd rather play a couple times a year at special gigs, enjoy the hell out of what I'm doing, play whatever the hell I want, rather than have to kind of be something I don't want to be. And again, people always think you're talking rubbish when you say that stuff. But for someone like yourself or me who's creative, it's so passionate for us. It's part of our being. And I don't think people understand that kind of stuff, right? Like for me, it's not an acoustic song I wrote. that has a nice hook, and for you, it's not a rap verse you wrote. You know, you earned that for years with all your knowledge and your history. Same with me learning it all. And people just think of it as just a song. And I kind of went on an event there, but I'm sure you know what I mean by that. When people go, oh yeah, that's a cool song. And you're like, song? Like, this took me 7 months of my life to put this together. What do you mean, nice song?
Yeah, exactly, man. And like that was a good point you brought up where, you know, if someone said, hey, you know, if I gave you $1 million, you know, you'll take it. And it's kind of like, it's a catch-22, man. One, yeah, I guess like, you know, like I would take it, but in a sense, if they're like, okay, you got to flip your style and go poppy, it's kind of like there's a balance between it, man. There's one, you know, you can still have your originality and make something that's quote unquote under like what you live by, or you know you can go completely left field and do what the others are doing, and that's what I call a sellout, man. I call a sellout if they're just jumping through like the hoops, which is, you know, following like, you know, the trends or what to stay relevant. Like for example, say if Eminem, I'll use him for an example. Say if, you know, he's such a great lyricist, he loves the culture of hip hop. If one day I turn, you know, on the radio or something and he was literally doing Gucci Gang or like mumbling, I would lose a ton of respect for him, man, because I'd be like, you are just jumping, you're just jumping through the hoops. I can't stand artists that do that, man, where, you know, they claim to be one thing and then next minute, like, they're doing, you know, the rock look now, or they're doing like the gothic look now, or, you know, going back to hip hop. It just loses the true potential and the true aspect of what, you know, the artists that they're promoting, man, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
And people say, hey, it's just to stay relevant. Nah, in my opinion, I don't think it stays relevant. I think it's like it shows like fakeness, and it doesn't show the true identity of the artist, in my personal opinion, man.
Yeah. And this it seems like we're bashing hip hop, but it sounds like we also both love hip hop. So we're not bashing it. We're almost like lamenting over better times, as it were, because, you know, I remember where I would just hear a little hook of a beat and I'd be able to tell you what album it was, what artist it was, you know? And with these modern day stuff, I couldn't pick it out of a lineup and match the names to names on pieces of paper, for sure. There's very little stuff that I like. And when I do, it's the majority of it is indie. You know, it's independent guys that are doing it for the love, like yourself, that, you know what I mean? That stuff's better than the mumble stuff, like we mentioned again.
Yeah, I honestly think that the problem with it now, on why we've come to this era, is because we don't really invest into artists anymore. It's more a hot or not kind of way of thinking, you know, because of social media. Like, social media is a good platform to branch brands out in your brand, but at the same time, I feel like this whole, he's hot 1 minute, the next album comes out, it's a flop, move on to the next one. Back in the day, man, I remember, you know, like if like Nas brought out Illmatic, and that was an incredible, one of the best hip hop albums of all time. And then, you know, Stillmatic was after that, and it was kind of a flop of an album, but you still invested in him to see where he would go next. And it wasn't just like, I'm going to move on to Jay-Z, I'm going to move on to this. You would invest into an artist, and I feel like that we've lost that, and I realize this is why just promote out whatever we can and see if it's hot or if it's not. And if that makes sense, man, you know what I'm saying? Like
that's what the internet allows you to do, you know?
Yeah.
You can record something, just throw it out there, and the potential, they always say it to you, like the potential is limitless. Sounds like I'm pitching a sales job, but it's that thing where, like, you know, I could put up a song, or you could put up a song, and it could get 32 million hits. I just threw a number out of the sky, right? It could. But sometimes I see things online where I'm like, how did this get 1 million hits? And I put this song up and only got 300 hits. You know, how do you deal with that part of it? Because I'm sure, you know, we all get those shots to the ego, as it were, where you're like, this song is going to be the one, and then you just put it up, it gets a couple hundred hits, and you're like, really? And it's hard, you know. That's one of the parts, especially emotionally, they're really tough for me to sort of pick up and keep moving from. So, how do you deal with that kind of stuff when it comes?
Man, honestly, that was a fantastic question you asked me, because I live that mindset daily, and it's crazy, man, because to the average viewer that either, you know, hasn't done a creative field or just, you know, kind of works a 9 to 5, man, you know, they don't understand what a musician's mind of trying to make it in the industry is like, and it does, man. You kind of, it's an industry made for you to fail in a hypothetical way. Like, I mean, it's not like you just go into a label and hand your resume and say, hey, sign me like a 9 to 5. Like, there's so many cutthroats and cheats in this. And to answer that, man, I feel that, like you'll post up a song you've been working on for 7 months, probably gets maybe 100 views. Next minute, like, the girl from, what is it, Dr. Phil, that Bad Barbie or whatever it is,
Yeah.
just like overnight celeb touring the world and that, and you kind of like, where's the justice in that to an artistry, And with me personally, man, like I've been to the points of, I feel so cheated, like from hustling and grinding and just hearing slam doors in my face, to the point it's affected, like last year, it affected my health to the point I was close to having almost 2 heart attacks in the course of 8 months. I was just damaging myself. I was like, I'm sick of how this is working and nothing's coming out of it. And then I just had to pick myself up, man, and just be like, look, I love hip hop to death, but sort of look at it as grind 110%, but don't act like there's a guarantee at the end of the road, because you will drive yourself insane if it's like, it's going to happen, because there's no guarantee it's going to happen. It's just winning it by chance. Yeah. So it's like, what's kept me level-headed now, man, is just have a realistic approach, but at the same time, get on any opportunity possible and hope for the best, man. Because that's just how I look at it, man. Yeah.
And I think what's so hard, we talked about things like that, if you're not an artist or a creative, you wouldn't understand it. And it's also that fine line of like being humble and not being not being like egotistical about things, but also being like, I deserve better than this, man. Like, I deserve better. I am better than what I've had the outcome. And that's the important point you make, is that it isn't like a 9 to 5. I have friends that even jokingly poke at me and say, how come you're not a famous musician yet? Ha ha ha. And because it's like you said, it's not a 9 to 5. So at my typical 9 to 5, if I work hard and keep working harder, you might get promoted, you might make more money, etc. You'll move up, right? That's how the natural order works. That is not how it works for creative people, for writers, for actors. It doesn't work that way. And I think non-creative people struggle to understand that, maybe, and think that we're just kind of being babies about it. I get told all the time, like, oh, you shouldn't be working a job. You should be making music as a living. You should be following your passion. And then you're kind of like, yeah, but I got to pay the rent, man. Like, 100 views, man, I got to pay the rent. Like, it doesn't work like that. So there's that.
Yeah. Like,
please go ahead.
Exactly, man. Yeah, no, like that's a fantastic point, man. I mean, like, the whole, like that whole, why don't you, like, you live your dream and stuff. And it's just like, that's just idiotic. Like, that's just idiotic of you even saying that to me, because you don't know, the loopholes and the like the chances and stuff to take. Like, I mean, like, some people even go homeless, man, for like chasing their dreams, man, but and not winning it. So I mean, like, yeah, like everyday life gets in the way, man. Like that's just natural part of life with growing up. I mean, paying bills and having a house, like, having an apartment or a house or a family and stuff, man. And it's kind of just, I get the same question too, man. Like, I mean, like, I get from my friends, I don't be like that miserable sort of bitter person, man, but it's more, I'm very blunt, like, now, if that makes sense. Like, I'm very, like, we've like, if there's a moment where I hit rock bottom or I'm down, they become confused in a sense, like my family and my friends, of just, why aren't you happy? Or, like, you have your moments where you hit rock bottom and you have your swings and stuff. Why is that? And it's like, because this industry is like a drug. It's kind of like you want it so badly, but at the same time, it's impossible to give it up, because you kind of lose yourself if you give it up. And it's like that mental strain of, it's like, it's just like, I can't be like fully completely happy unless I achieve it. It's a sickness in a sense, man. Like
Yeah.
you know, yeah. It's a scary thing. It's kind of like a gift and a curse. Like you love it, but you hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
And
Yeah.
that comes
Yeah.
up in so many of my conversations in these shows, again with all manner of artists, that gift and curse of like you said, you mentioned like a drug. It is a drug. It's an addiction, man, and that addiction is whichever piece of it that you love the most. So for me, it would be, former days on stage with a band that we've molded the songs together for like a couple of years at that point, and we're on fire. The crowd's loving it. It's hot. Everybody's sweaty. It's loud, and you're having a fantastic time. Everyone's screaming and cheering and singing along with one of your originals in this cool bar in Canada. And the next morning at 7 a.m., you're at your factory job. Tell me that's not like heroin. Come on now, right? Like it's. And nobody, again, we've said it a few times now, non-artists wouldn't get that, but I know that you know exactly how that feels.
Yeah, man. I mean, like 100%. You know, it's like it's weird, like having that performing on stages and doing what you love. Like that is nothing can beat that high. But it's also like soul crushing going to that job of just that responsibility, man. Like it's like like I do a waitering job, man, which I was, saying, I think on Facebook, I don't know, but and it's kind of just like, man, knowing that, and I always get the question all the time of like, how's your music going, or have you got anything planned up? And it's like, dude, like I kind of like just brush it off. I was just like, man, I fuck this job, but it's kind of like it's so soul crushing to know that you got to push through the hard yards, but knowing that everything you've put hard work into to end up like that, it's just you have to push on for a brighter day, man. But it's like, I don't know how to explain, man. Like you just have to continue. Like that's why, in a sense, man, when I had my close to 2 heart attacks last year because of this, my family, like my dad was almost crying, and he was like, should you see a therapist or, psychologist? Because like it's consuming you of wanting to make this dream a reality. And I just brushed it off because I just thought, man, like, what's therapy going to do if I'm in the same position I am when I walk out of that session? It's like, it's such a sad thing because they don't, like, as an outsider, they don't know the mental strain of, like, they can see it. Like, they can see, I know you're struggling, but you don't know mentally how I'm struggling, how I wake up each day to make this possible, like as a reality at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're going to a dark note there, man, but I
know.
like hopefully the viewers take something in, if they want to get into this field,
Yeah, well, because the whole season has been ups and downs, gifts and curses, blessings, and so I think the listeners are with us, man, because they get it. They at least they've been listening to us, so they may sort of empathize with it. So let's turn it positive then, because we also love this performing stuff. But I always talk to people about their creation process. So do you just kind of, when it hits you, you sit and you write, or do you craft your verses and your songs together? Do you work on lots of different stuff at one time? What's your process like creatively?
Oh, it drives me insane, man. Like sometimes I'll be driving, or even when I try and get to sleep, like my best rhymes or my best concepts, because it's complete silence, just come to me. And it keeps me up, man. I mean, like I got to wake up and write it so I don't forget it. But with me, man, I've never been the type of artist to just write to a beat for the sake of it. I've always been the type to really concept something to try and figure out, like to try and hope it has longevity. Like, I'd find like the right beat where I could see a great, like it's sellable. Like, I mean, it's kind of like, this is not just a rap song just to promote myself. This is something that's gonna get radio play, magazines, and just promote my brand name out there a bit more. So it does take more time, because I know guys that just write to a beat for the sake of it, and next minute they've got such a clustered catalog that everything kind of becomes compiled and all sounds the same. With me, man, I like to strategize and think, how many albums do I want to release under my name, how many songs, and what concepts and ideas will work and which will not. So I like to plan things more than just release material for the sake of it.
Yeah. Which is these days I always say to people, like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Meaning, like, just because you and your buddies have GarageBand on your iPad, it doesn't mean you should put out an album. Because a lot of it, and for me, there's nothing worse than a bunch of dudes that just take turns at their 16 bars over a beat. And you're just like, what was that?
Yeah.
Like I always loved Jurassic 5. Because a lot of times they would write a song together. They would each take their turns, but there'd be, a theme or a run-in. But when it's just, I knew so many guys, because I used to engineer in studios as well. So a lot of times they'd be renting studio space. They'd hand me a CD with instrumentals on it, and they'd all just go in and do their 16 bars. Easy work for me as the engineer, right? But, like, I guess that was cool. Is, what else? But then you'd get guys come in and, like yourself, craft a song, build a song, and then even I'm interested as an engineer. So you have to write a song, not just put a bunch of lyrics together is the point, I think.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, I mean, sometimes, and I always get the argument of, you got to drop a hot, 16 cipher on this track. Like, and I'm just like, yeah, I could easily write a dope 16 cipher, but as actual material for someone to listen to, like, whether it's hip hop heads or just general music lovers, like, it doesn't fly. Like, it's kind of like, because to an average music head, they don't understand the language of hip hop. Like, you could be doing all these metaphors and punchlines and stuff, and if I handed that to my youngest brother or something, he'd be like, he wouldn't even listen to 3 minutes of that. He'd rather listen to an actual catchy, kind of, song. So it's sort of like, to the artists where I listen to some of their albums and they're, it's like just a basic kick drum beat and they're doing these solid bars. It doesn't hold up, man. Like, you need both. You need the dope beat with the solid bars, man. And that's why I love dudes like, DMX, where it's like these really hard bars, but they're not super complex, but they're so catchy at the same time that they have a social message behind them.
Yeah.
Compared to someone that's just I don't know, with like cluster with my buster, like just over the top. Like, what are you even talking about? It's just with the metaphors, man. So yeah.
I mean, I'm a musician, but I'm not a hip hop artist, so I shouldn't be able to hear your rhyme on the radio and go, yo, give me 20 minutes, and I would murder that guy on a beat, like. Because there's something to be said about being musical and being on beat and being in tune with the beat, not just, like we were saying, just kind of yelling into the mic.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, something as simple as I always get the argument of there's artists out there that maybe their flow is a bit stale, or the rhymes, they need bigger wordplay rhymes, and I'm like, no, man, it's just how, like, you rhyme it, or you accelerate it onto the track. Like, I mean, something as simple as It Was All a Dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper, Heavy D up in the limousine. Like, that is
hanging pictures on my wall every Saturday.
Yeah,
exactly.
That is such simplistic rhyming, man. There's like no big fancy words, no massive punchlines, man. It's so simple, but it rhymes so smooth compared to like something like dinosaurs, metaphors, like something over the top. To the end of the 4-minute song, you're probably thinking, what the fuck did you just say? Like, it's like there needs to be a balance, man. So some guys can do it, some guys can't, man. Like, I know some artists that really do simplistic rhymes to the point it's like, gotta pick your game up, man. You can't use that crack sack all the time,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, even myself, man, I write a blues song, and I'm not sure I'm sure you know the blues. I don't mean that as an ignorant question, but I mean the blues, a lot of songs are generally repetitive. So it'll be like, my baby left me, she wasn't very nice. Yeah, my baby left me, she wasn't very nice. I don't like to do that, so I like to write 2 verses instead of the 1, or 2 lines instead of 1, if you know what I mean. But I'm the same where I don't want to rhyme day with say or love with above. I always try to look for like a different way to say it. And I bet you that's because I grew up listening to Biggie. So I'll try to rhyme it, move a word that should be in the middle of a sentence, put it at the end of a sentence, because then it rhymes with the next word. And things like that, I don't think people would ever notice how much work goes into that when you really think about the placement of words. But Biggie was huge for that. One of my favorite rap or hip hop albums of all time, if not number one for me, is definitely Reasonable Doubt by Jay-Z.
Dope, man. Dead Presidents.
Yeah, and all the
man.
jazz beats, when they would sample real, like I said at the beginning of our chat, real musicians, they would then sample those things, and then he would just do beautiful things over them. That's one of my favorites.
Dude, I got chills when you said that because, like, most people obviously know Jay-Z for Blueprint and everything, the commercial kind of side. Reasonable Doubt, that's pretty underground, man. Like, that was... Yeah, like that was dope, man. I just got chills because I think Reasonable Doubt's more better than Blueprint, to be honest. Call me crazy, man. Anyone that's listening, but like, yeah, Reasonable Doubt's way better, man.
Yeah,
100%.
call us both crazy. If I had to listen to one of them, I wouldn't listen to Blueprint, and I like it. But for me, Jay-Z isn't Go and Brush Your Shoulder Off or 99 Problems. That's not Jay-Z to me. So, you old school Jay-Z. And I guess I got to thank my buddies growing up when we were hanging out with my friend who's also a hip hop artist, Neurotic, and my boy Mikey, because Mikey would introduce me to hip hop. Mikey's a big, beautiful black man, and I was a chubby little white kid. I would play him blues and rock and roll CDs in his car, and he would play me hip hop and rap and stuff I'd never heard of. So I think that's where my love came from, man. That's definitely one of my favorites. And I wish I sound like an old man when I say it, but they don't make it like that anymore.
Man, honestly, like, I think my number one, it's funny, man, like, call me crazy because, like, when people see me, especially hip-hop crews or just even if I get interviewed, they're like, your influences is Eminem, right? And it's like, he was when I first started off, but, man, my number one MC to go to was Rakim. Eric B and Rakim, man, like Microphone Fiend, Paid in Full, classic. I just reckon the dude is down packed. Like, he's got the look, the rhyme style, the flow. It's just, if he ever comes to Australia, man, I'll be happy because I reckon he's got the best punchlines and just music and all ever hip hop. Like, everyone can chuck me anything, man. Jay-Z, Tupac, anything. Nothing can beat Rakim. That's my number one dude, man. Yeah.
Where do you settle then in the universal? I love that we can just talk hip hop too. Where do you land? Now, I'll start. Tupac and Biggie. Everyone always says who was better, which one was number one. Hey folks, thanks for listening to MattLees Gets Creative. Now, I know people can't afford to be a patron for each of the podcasts that they love. But if you're looking to put a little support towards an independent podcast, it would make you a loyal part of our team. Those fees would be used for the obvious things like the production of the episodes, but we're also looking to pay it forward, as each month I'll donate half of the total patron subscriptions to the Valindra Cancer Center in Cardiff. Because, in addition to being a musician and a podcaster, I am also a cancer survivor. As well as bonus clips and outtakes from various interviews, patrons would also have access to live streams and at least one exclusive episode per month. Bonus episodes could be additional interviews or unheard guests, as well as performances and readings by musicians, poets, authors, etc. Loyal supporters would also get some digital earlove with shoutouts on these special shows. As a member of the club, you'll also have spoiler alert access, where you'll find out about an upcoming guest, have the chance to submit questions, and even have early access to some of those episodes. This show will always remain free for all of the people that are kind enough to listen and to join us on our journey. But if you're looking to give a little back and help us out too, you are most welcome, and we would appreciate your support. And that's at patron.podbean.com/MattLees Gets Creative. patron.podbean.com/MattLees Gets Creative. Thanks for listening. Tupac was so poetic and speaking about social, current social and political heat, whereas Biggie would do things like, I used to play Sega Genesis, and you're like, dope. Both just as dope, but completely different. So it's almost like you can't compare them directly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, Biggie's flow, it was naturally born talent. Like, I mean, I reckon his flow was way better than Pac's. It was more aggressive. Like, there was an infamous freestyle they both did. And, Tupac was rhyming about getting chased by the police and, just like crack mothers and stuff. And I was just like, all right, yeah, that's cool. And he's like doing it in sort of like a funky kind of way where, and like after his syllables, you'd just be like, and a Hail Mary, like that and kind of shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's dope. And then I went to Biggie, and fuck, man, like it's even thinking about Sam Chills, he was like talking about, like cocaine, like addicts and just like how the hood works, but like the punchlines were so much more powerful. And Biggie's like, cocaine out the no, shotgun out the door, and then I was just like, fuck, man, do not fuck with this guy. Like it's just like Pac had this more social way of speaking, like preaching, but Biggie was more like, if you want to go bar for bar, rhyme for rhyme, like there's no way,
Yeah.
So I reckon that was the difference between them, and it's a shame they're gone, man. Like I mean, I feel like a little detective in a sense. I got all the documentaries and the whole police reports, but I don't think they'll ever solve that murder, man.
No, because I think the police killed them both. There, I said it right here on MattLees Gets Creative. I said it. The police killed them both.
Yeah, I believe so, man. Like I wouldn't even get into the discussion because we'll probably be here for hours speaking about it. But I just feel it was very shady, man. Like it was, fuck, like some of these, the rumors, the reports, and everything, man. It's just, it's crazy how two guys like just were basically just rappers rapping about current issues was, like fucked up by like a government, thing, man. It's like, how can words and rhymes impact that? That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we should do, maybe one day you and I can do a special edition podcast and we'll deep dive on the Tupac Biggie thing. And you can come at me with all your knowledge and everything, and I'll try to pick through it. How about that? That sounds like fun.
Yeah, man, most definitely. Yeah. And it's like, speaking on like blues and stuff that you've done, you must be would sort of rock, but like, he took kind of inspiration from blues singers was Mick Jagger. Yeah, you a fan of the Rolling Stones, man?
It was I always respect them, obviously, because they were awesome. But for me, I worked in commercial radio, so I heard a lot of Rolling Stones. So because I had to play a lot of it on the radio. But for me, I was always a Beatles guy. Now I like some of their later, more bluesy stuff, the Rolling Stones. But I was always, I don't know why there was that Tupac, Biggie, Rolling Stones, Beatles thing, but I was a Beatles guy.
What do you think of Michael Jackson buying their whole catalog? You heard about that?
Yeah,
when he's alive.
It's shifty business, isn't it? But I mean, I wouldn't let Michael Jackson buy the rights to my songs, would you? So I don't know how that went that way, really. But it sounds shady. I think McCartney has them back now, though, doesn't he?
I'm sure. I have no idea. Like all I knew was somehow, he did like some pretty shady work. Like he went to Paul and asked him, how much would your catalog be? And then he like estimated just like a random number. And then Michael got onto like the phone with his publishers and stuff. And then next minute, like it was like bought. That's like there was like a famous interview by comedian Eddie Griffin, and he was telling like the story because he was good friends with Michael Jackson around that time, and he's telling it like on a hip hop blog called Vlad TV, and the story. It's kind of like, geez, was Michael a heap shady behind closed, like not with the kids stuff. I mean, like with the music side of things, was he like, like heap shady on that side as well, so I don't know. But I mean, with this whole thing that's going on with him, just lay it to rest, man. I'm sick of seeing it. It's just the dude's been dead for so and so years. Get over and done with, man. You know?
Yeah. I've been having that argument with people too, saying like, we listened to his songs 3 months ago, now because the documentary's out, we can't. And he's not around to defend himself. But anyway, it's a stupid conversation because people aren't going to come to your side of it because they've already painted it. You know what I mean? But
see, that's just stupidity, man. Like, I mean, like, I don't know. Did he do it? Did he not? All that kind of, who cares? Well, or not who cares? Yeah, but like I'm saying, are you really gonna stop listening to his music? Like he's Thriller, Billie Jean, like Smooth Criminal. Like if the DJ plays that in the club, honestly, man, like I don't even care. I'm gonna get the next girl and dance, man.
Yeah.
Like that's how funky the music was. Yeah,
because your Billie Jean comes on and your neck's going, your head's going, no matter what. I don't care who you are. That song comes on and you're bopping your head.
Oh man, like it's funny, man. Like when he first did the moonwalk for the first time, I think it was at the Soul Train Awards, and he did Billie Jean, and he, like when the drum comes on, and and he's combing his hair and stuff. I was like, fuck, man, all the girls are loving you. You're just the man doing all this shit, aren't you? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he knew it too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%, man.
So
Yeah.
what's to jump over? What's the live scene like when you play there in Australia? Because it's totally I'm sure it's totally different all over the world. Because I started playing in Canada, where it's completely different to how it was in the UK when I first got here. I was playing with an agent who was booking me around South Wales, and I was doing different, but it's a completely different scene. And in my opinion, not an enjoyable one for me anyway. So what's the live scene like for Australia? And is it more limited because it's hip hop for yourself?
Very limited with hip hop, man. I mean, the rock scene is incredible over here. Especially garage bands or developed bands. Mainly we've had a lot of rock crews come out of here, whether it's NXS, Midnight Oil, AC/DC.
Yeah, of course.
But with hip hop artists, like majority of the people who know us knows us for Iggy Azalea, man, which is a damn shame. I mean, like that. Like I could go into a story about that, which was a damn shame when she got signed. But with the hip hop scene, like there's underground nightclubs and open mics, man. But it depends how you rock the crowd, like in those sort of circumstances. I mean, because I've been in, like I'm from the suburbs, man. Like and I've never sold crack or nothing like that. I've never claimed it, but I've been to hip hop concerts where. Open mics where I've been surrounded by real dudes, like done prison time and that, and it's kind of like, yeah, you do become a bit intimidated, but you sort of think at the back of your head, one, they can smell a fake, and two, if they can smell who loves the genre of hip hop. And what's crazy enough, man, there was this once I performed at this hip hop gig, and I performed my track My Journey, and like in my mind, I was shitting myself. I was thinking, am I gonna get my head punched in here for like getting up on the mic, or are they gonna like really rock to this? And I thought, fucking man, just take the risk. You've come this far, and that. And I did my track and like rocked the crowd. And afterwards, they were just slapping me fives, man, and just loving it and saying, "How long you been doing hip hop music for?" and all this sort of stuff. And I'd be like, "Oh, 13 years," and da da da. But it's like you have to have this sort of aura about you to know, like, who is real and who is not, in a sense, man. Like, I don't know, if I was like Lil this or Shorty this and I walked in, I think it would be a different picture, man, compared to who I am.
Yeah.
That makes sense, man.
Yeah, because they'll give you they'll judge you right away, but then they'll give you a minute, and that's when you kind of have to prove it. And then when you say, like, them coming up to you and slapping your hand and telling you how much they liked it, that's the drug, right?
Yeah, man, like 100%, and I feel it's how you interact with the crowd as well. Like, if you're just standing in one position the whole time and you're just like rhyming, like, people are just going to start walking away. Like, that's why before I get a confirmation email or even a phone call and I say, hey, Mugzy, can you do this gig tomorrow night? I look at my catalog and I think which is going to be suited and which is just going to draw crowds in and draw crowds away. And majority of the time, I always put my track My Journey and Can't Stop Us, and a lot of ones that have a lot of adrenaline in them, so the crowd really gets into it. Because if I'm doing like a sad, soppy song like Rain or Don't Cry or something like that, I know it's going to be a bit of a drag than having fun with it.
Yeah, so, that's another one of those things. Because I do the same, man. We have similar experiences where I have those more emotional songs, the slower songs, the sappy songs that sometimes mean more to us as the creator. But you got to earn the crowd first. So you come out, you do the boppers first, you get the crowd to be into you, to trust you, and then maybe you slip in one of the slower tracks and hope that they vibe with it.
Exactly, man. Like, I mean, as a developed artist, like if we, the huge time artists like your Eminems and stuff can get away with it because everyone knows their music. Like, what I say to like underground artists or ones that are trying to come up, it's like, yeah, like if their catalog was just sappy songs or just that kind of, it means so much to them. But should they perform it? I would say, nah, man, don't, like, find something that's like adrenaline to get the crowd in, and then they will listen to your more emotional stuff. It's a sellable thing, man. You know, compared to doing the sappy, you know, the emotional stuff first, then the adrenaline stuff later. Or by that point, you've got the crowd walking away. You know, so that's just how I look at it. Yeah.
You reminded me of something. You talked about walking into the room with the real dudes and the intimidation. I mentioned I used to engineer for sessions. So essentially, rap groups would show up at my studio. I say it like it was my studio. The studio I worked at, and we'd book, you know, but some of them would show up with the guy actual with his beats that he created, you know, and they lay down proper, legit rap songs. And I was like, these guys are going to make it, man. These guys are going to make it. To this point, they haven't, which again is that gift and curse, that heartbreaking part, because they're definitely better than stuff I hear on the radio. Now, I won't name them, and that's for a very specific reason. So one time I'm driving them. They asked me to drive. They say, oh, hey, you know, drive us to Toronto. We're going to Toronto. It's about an hour drive.
Sure.
So the whole time they got an instrumental CD going. Everybody's they're all taking turns freestyling. And the dude that I was closest with, Mason was his name. We'd rap battle for fun, you know, not a legit battle because I wasn't a freestyler, but like I kind of like write rhymes, taking little friendly punches at him, and he'd write them back at me and stuff. Yeah. We just enjoy ourselves, you know. So we get to this studio and we walk in, and I haven't met the rest of the dudes that are already in the studio. And there are certain things on the table, let's say products that may or may not be legal, all over the table. And as I walk in, every single dude in the room just dead eyes me. You know, they're just staring at me. They're just watching me. And he, you know, everyone's cool, of course. We kind of chill out and relax. They're recording something to a beat for some promotion they're doing. And then my heart stops when I hear Mason shout, "Yo, Matt, get in the booth and spit something on this." And I was like, "Excuse me?" I was like, no. There will be no spitting of any bars today, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
But of course he's giving me that love of like, yo, you can do it, man. Write something up and do it. So I'm sitting there with a room full of real dudes, right? And they've got the mattress tucked in the corner of the room. I'm sure you've done this with the mic in front of that, you know? And I had to write 16 bars. I had to put these headphones on, turn my back to the entire room, and yell them into a mattress. And it was one of the scariest experiences of my life.
Yeah, man, like that is an incredible story and funny too. Like I could see that on like a like a comedy movie, man.
Yeah, because I was terrified because I was just the engineer, right? And they were like, "Oh, you're a musician. Why don't you just spit a rhyme?" It doesn't work that way, sir. I'm sure you know that, my friend, but most people may not know it doesn't work like that, you know. But I got through it. You know, they seemed to like it. Nobody killed me, so I think it went okay. And there were one or two MattLees Band songs where I used to have a little bit of a rap verse just for fun, just because sometimes that's the only way to get the idea across, I always thought.
Yeah, man. Like, it's amazing. It's kind of like it's like an animal instinct, man. You know, they can smell the real from the fake in a sense, you know, where it's also, they can you smell also corniness from genuine as well. Like, I mean, when I walked in, like it was like majority like black guys, and in my mind I was thinking, and it wasn't Aboriginal like black guys, it was like, you know, kind of African Americans. Like, where have you all been in Australia,
right?
You know,
yeah.
and so, you know, I was like filled in the room, and it was literally like set up like the whole 8 Mile kind of vibe, and I was just like, it's basically like the Eminem thing where it's like you're being fed to the wolves, in a sense. And you know, like actually last year I was performing, this is where it happened, I was performing at Coast to Coast Mixtapes. I was doing a worldwide tour trying to look for the next big artist, and they came to like city to city, and so I performed at that, and I was in there. It was like the 8 Mile kind of vibe, and I was just like, you know, they had a hat, and they had like all the artists that put their names down, and they'd pull a name out of the hat to see, you know, who would go up first. And I was just you never want to be that first guy, because you have to kind of prove yourself more than like everyone else, and to kind of set it off. And luckily for my bad luck, they actually called my name up first. And man, like I swear, I was inside shitting my pants. Like I was just like thinking, one, this could explode all in my face, even though it's a dope track, My Journey, and the crowd's probably thinking, no, we're not feeling this, or they're going to rock with the crowd. And luckily enough, man, after that night, I just rocked the crowd, and everyone was like, it was because of, it was actually because we are so sick of hearing this mumbling kind of stuff that it was such a breath of fresh air to hear lyricists and bar for bar, man, but with also a catch where they could nod their heads and bang to it, man. And at the end of the night, they were just slapping hands with me and just like, yeah, that was like real, like hip hop that we need again. And I was just like, in my mind, I loved it, man. But I was just thinking, oh, I dodged a massive bullet at that night, because I swear I was in the yard with that one, man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, when I used to do these open mics when I was 4, it was the same thing. They'd pull your name out of a hat and random order and things, and by the end I started bribing the host with beers so that he wouldn't pull my name first, because I was like, I was as well as being a musician, I was a promoter too, man. I was trying to set the night up right so that I could go up there and do the best set I could possibly do. So you want to be later in the night when everyone's already drunk or stoned, right? And you don't want to be first or second. You want to be in the middle a little bit. So I'd always go up at the perfect time, get the best reaction from the crowd, and be like, that was amazing. I feel like $1 million. I have to go to work in the morning. But sometimes you just got to work it. You got to work it. You got to cheat. If you're not cheating, you're not playing right, is my opinion.
Oh, 100%, man. And I mean, you'll get those one or two people that ain't like riding with it, man, which is like they have that, that sort of blank look where they're looking at you like, what are you doing? That sort of look. And you just brush it off, man. Just be like, look, you're not fighting for the dream. I am. So it's kind of like, just like keep pushing on, man, because sometimes I see, like, not at those kind of nights, I'll just put it at that, like at normal kind of nights where it's like every type of genre of music, I see these singers, man, and they become so, like, they become so innocent on stage where, like, they have all those eyes looking at them and they're like, I can't do this. And they, some of the time they'll walk off stage and I'm like, how badly do you want it for you to walk off stage? Like, what's consuming you to not perform?
Yeah.
So it's just like, I mean, there's a side where it's like, yeah, like I get nervous too sometimes going up on stage, but like there's this epiphany in my brain to say, if I'm afraid of performing in front of, just like a club of people, am I really going to be that afraid of talking to CEOs or talking to industry execs and selling my music and stuff? You can't really be afraid of anything, man.
No, that's that fine line between ego and knowing what you're worth, right? Because you can't be worried about talking to an exec and being like, oh, yes sir, no sir, because you have the talent, you have the skill, not them, right?
Exactly.
We have to, and again, it's not an ego thing, it's that fine line, but you want the idea to be that they need you more than you need them. Did I say that the right way around? Yes. They need you, the artist, more than you, the artist, need them. But unfortunately, that isn't how it works at all. We have to scratch and beg and hope that we get thrown a cookie once in a while, and it's a tough thing, man. So what would you, I know it's a tough battle, so it's hard to give advice to others, but what would you say to those artists, the guy who just ate shit at an open mic and figures, I'm not doing this anymore?
Man, personally, I would say, okay, if you're getting into, I'll use hip hop again for an example. No, okay, actually any type of music. If you're getting into it at a young age, I can understand, you want the money, the riches, the fame and stuff, and it's like, I'm going to release my first demo and it's going to be a hit and all this, like having that sort of future fame goal. That's just natural, man.
Yeah.
But in saying that, when it does, like it happens, like if you get that meeting or you perform for that gig and maybe that CEO's there in the crowd, don't expect it to be a guarantee, because that happened to me once, man. And like a personal story, back in 2012, I was performing at this gig called Urban Star. It was kind of like a Australia's Got Talent, but searching for the next big hip hop star kind of thing. And there was a producer on the judging panel called Marcus Pennell. Rest in peace to him. He died in 2016. But he used to work for Def Jam and Sony, and he was coming over here in Australia to scout. And he had a house here in the northern beaches of Sydney, which is a pretty fancy area, man. And you know, he gave me a 10 out of 10 on the night because he loved my performance and stuff. But a few months after that, I got his his email, and I emailed him. And this is before my Understand Me album came out. It was just when I had my rough demo, like I think it was like 3 or 4 tracks, and handed it to him, like in that frame of mindset. It was such a rough copy, man. But it was like handed it to him, and I was like, like try and get me on, da 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 da. And a few months in, he's like, hey, I've listened to your stuff, and this is before my Facebook page was like what it is now. It was probably just starting off, and he was like, let's go out for lunch and have a discussion, about your career and stuff. And to the words like that for an upcoming MC, man, that was like a sign saying to me, oh, I'm going to take that train ride down to the CBD, and my life's going to be changed forever, man.
Yeah.
He's going to have the contract and everything. And so I get there on like top of the Wizard of Oz rainbow, man. Like I was just jumping for joy. Like,
well, I mean,
everything
you gave me chills when you said that, right? So I know the vibe, because when you said let's have lunch and talk about your career, I got that chill. So please continue.
So I'm going down there and stuff, and like I get there, and I was at this local Chinese restaurant he used to eat at when he used to come over here, and we're discussing like the hip hop scene in Australia and the music scene and all this kind of stuff. But then he explained like it's a different ball game of an industry now, man. It's not how we used to do, where we'd see like something in an artist and they'd have no followers, no nothing, and the producer or the CEO would be like, I'm going to invest my money into this to branch him into a star. You kind of have to be already developed to be put in this industry, man, if that makes sense. And he was kind of explaining to me that as a stereotypical point to hip-hop, when it comes to Australia, man, we kind of, this is before Azalea, we kind of are labelled like your Crocodile Dundees kind of stuff, in a sense that we're so isolated that it's like if he walked me through Def Jam doors and it's like, hey, check out Australian rapper Mugzy, they'll just be like, what is he rapping about? Like, there's not really a sellable kind of market. Like this is before Iggy came out, but it's a high risk, high solution kind of thing of what he was explaining to me, of how the industry would look at me with no following, because I had like no following behind me, and how would they invest a no following artist with the whole stereotype of Australia, with that behind me, compared to if I was a developed artist at the time, it'd be like, hey, he's developed, this is the kind of stuff that, he can do. And they'll be like, oh, that's a marketing tool. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So hopefully I explained it in the best of my ability of what he was talking about. But I remember walking out of that sort of lunch feeling rock bottom, man. Like I was gutted. I fell into a depression spiral after that, man, because it was like the realistic of how the industry doesn't guarantee you anything. And it's all by chance of meeting the right person or having the right stuff behind you. And I remember feeling just like, should I quit or should I keep going? But I kept at it, man. So the advice I give to upcoming artists is, if something like that happens, or there might be a censor of a shot, don't think of the guaranteed, like have happy thoughts and stuff, but don't think there should be a guarantee of you, because like you'll probably just walk out like I did with just thinking, what the fuck just happened, Yeah. So
don't stop the grind. Don't stop working, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, man. So sorry about my little rant, but that was my little Def Jam kind of almost signing story, man.
Yeah,
which was crazy.
Well, you know what? As we finish off, because you told me one, I can tell you one. Mine's way more embarrassing. Okay,
go for it, man.
But mine, like as an artist, you'll realize that mine hurts just as much as yours, but mine is way more embarrassing. So at the height of my band playing, when we would play all these gigs, I had an original song that I had written called Lois Lane. which was talking about how the TV shows and movies that I loved when I grew up and how they just don't make stuff like that anymore, was the basic idea. Anyway, we would play it at gigs and people would say, that's going to be a smash hit single. That's going to be a hit single. That song's the one. And I think a little part of my subconscious even kind of stopped the push. You know what I mean? Because I was like, well, that song's going to be a hit single, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and it'll naturally occur. Excuse me. We're playing a gig. We're hosting at a night. And at the back of the room, this dude walks in with two gorgeous women. And this dude sits down at a table. And everybody in the room, you know when somebody walks in and the whole vibe of the room changes? Everybody noticed this dude. Everybody recognized this dude. And people are going over to him and slipping him like napkins, and he's signing them and giving them back to them and stuff. This is what I'm seeing as I'm standing on the stage singing. And I'm like, what is going on? So we play, because again, always the showman myself, right? I look around to the boys and I'm like, fuck it, let's play Lois Lane. Now's the time. I don't know who he is, but let's play Lois Lane. Make it good. You know what I mean? Shine it up, you know? So we play Lois Lane, and he's there kind of bopping his head. He keeps looking up at us. And I'm having the moment where I'm like, yo, but similar to yours, like you're going to take the train or the bus down and your life's going to change. I'm singing a verse thinking, when I finish this verse, this is it. It's all going to change now. So one of the bar owners, one of the workers at the bar walks past me, and I'm on the stage and there's a solo going on. So I lean down and I say, hey, who's that? And he says, it's David Lee Roth. So I'm like, yo, David, what? So as he's playing, I lean over to my guitar player and I'm like, yo, David Lee Roth is here? And he's like, what? So now I'm going to go out. I'm going to say I didn't know him well enough to know anything about him, right? So if somebody said to me, yo, that's Jay-Z at the back of the room, I'd be like, that's not Jay-Z, man. Shut your mouth, right? But there was enough doubt in me that I was like, yo, that could be. I mean, I don't know that it isn't. So once the set finishes, he calls us over and we sit down at the table with him. Now, it's important to note that he never says who he is, okay? He just starts talking to us. And he's like, listen, I loved your set. You guys are awesome. We're playing a bunch of shows starting at the Sky Dome in Toronto, which, by the way, is a baseball stadium. So I'm talking like 60,000 people for a concert, I think. He says, we're going to start at the Sky Dome, and you guys are going to open, and we're going to go on a little tour together. How's that sound? And, of course, we're like, okay. And people are still kind of coming over and saying hello to him and taking pictures. Like, this isn't something that you could make up, man. Like, it's crazy. So my buddy that was playing guitar at the time wasn't my regular guy. He was a virtuoso of a guitar player. At the time, he was Alex Tintinelli, which is a blues artist. He is now a soul and funk and urban artist, Alex Price. He's with me. At the time, he's very young. I mean, like 15. We used to have to sneak him into the bars, but he was that good of a player, right? He, of course, goes outside to text his dad and say, Dad, David Lee Roth here. He's taking us on tour.
No.
So now this dude says, tell you what, why don't we do a song together? So he gets up now at this bar. We get up. Everyone's cheering, and we're going to sing a song with quote-unquote David Lee Roth. Now, he starts singing, and he's all right, you know. I'm probably very drunk at this point, so I'm thinking, God damn. I see Alex's dad standing at the back of the bar kind of watching us. We finish our song. I then go over to his dad and I say, hey, well, how about all this? And he's like, listen, man, David Lee Roth's on tour right now in Atlanta with so-and-so, and I don't know who the hell that guy is.
Oh, I got chills, man, of guilt.
Next day, it gets worse. Next day in the newspapers and on the local news, they tell the story of the con man who came to town. And apparently he was swindling money out of people. He was swindling food out of people. But each article went on to mention he even convinced a local rock band they were going on tour with him.
Fuck, man.
So that's that's mine.
I wouldn't say, I'd say you dodged a bullet, but man, what? I think that tops mine by far, man. Like, goddamn, like a full stadium tour and like, you know, probably a signing and stuff. Like, two birds with one stone, man. That's horrible.
Yeah, and it makes me. All these years later. Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, how did you like? I guess with slap of reality hitting you in the face with that. Like, what did you? Because I explained what I felt, but like, what did you feel and how did you overcome that, man? Like, Yeah.
It was devastating. I'm going to level with you.
Yeah.
Because you have that moment of height, right? Where you're like, holy shit. And you're so high from it. And then it's taken away from you so quickly. Devastating.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, I don't think I played after that night for a good couple of weeks. So I think the wound kind of took me a while to clean, you know, because that was, and again, a non-artist wouldn't understand that roller coaster ride you just went on, right? But the stupidest part was because we were so excited about it, we had already mentioned it, right? So you're kind of texting with your buddy going, holy shit, David Lee Roth, he's taking us on tour. So then, of course, they text somebody else going, yo, Matt's going on tour with David Lee Roth. Yo, Matt's going, you know what I mean? So then you have to kind of like, everybody's like, yo, I heard you're going on tour with David. No, I'm actually not, man. It was, you have to tell the story every time, you know?
Oh, yeah, man.
So it was a rough one, but you know, you learn a lot from stuff like that, and you know, you're young and stupid sometimes. And again, it's not like I was a loyal listener, so you know, it's not like I should have known. I mean, I should have known better, but I shouldn't have known better, if that makes sense. Like, one of my biggest inspirations musically is John Mayer. I don't know if he gets much exposure there, but you know.
No, John Mayer. Yeah, man, John Mayer.
I love John Mayer. So if somebody said, yo, John Mayer's at the back of the bar, and some dude said, I'm taking you on tour, I of course would be like, you're not John Mayer, man. Fuck you. But there was just enough doubt and just enough hope in our eyes. I mean, I was probably 20 at this time, 20, I don't know, you know what I mean? Young 20s. And that was the thing where you're still dreaming enough where you're like, this is it, motherfuckers. And it totally wasn't.
Have you had any experiences throughout your music career, man, where you've felt, in a sense, almost sabotaged your career at like the blink of an eye or something? Have you had anything like that?
I mean, I've had moments where like I've played with like, you know, a really phenomenal band, and you think, if I get this band to play, then we will make it, you know? And I've had the pieces in my hand. And again, I always try to stay away from ego, but it's hard when you're trying to be honest about something. There was a point where I had the musicians in my life, and I thought I was writing songs where I was like, right, if I can get these guys to commit to this band 100%, I know we can make it. The problem is they were all phenomenally talented professional musicians, and I wasn't in a position to pay them, right? And I don't begrudge them from having paying gigs 5 nights a week. You know, I don't begrudge them that. But so whether I've had it directly and almost had it where it was almost tangible, no. But there was a band I was in at a certain point where I know that would have been the band and we would have made it. And it's not like me looking back going, oh, I could have, and those are I'm not trying to feel sorry for myself. I'm older and wiser, I always say now. And there was a point where I knew if I could just get us all to lock this down, this could be the band. But unfortunately, you know, like we say, it's just like playing the lottery, man. It's, you know, people can tell me all day, that song is incredible. I love that song. It's great. It got 300 hits or whatever, like we said.
Man, like before I go, like I remember this story, and clear as day, man. I don't know how I overcame this one. I'm still here, but like 2000, we're in 2019. Last year, it was actually last year, yeah. And I actually think it was the one that led to me hitting rock bottom and having the heart attacks. Man, was so I was, you know, doing these, you know, gigs and stuff, and getting interviews and piling up a whole bunch of stuff, and I received this email, and there was this brand new show that was hitting Australia called Hughesy, We Have a Problem, and it was this #1 comedian in Australia called David Hughes, and it was kind of like, it was like a comedian show, but also like a therapeutic show where it's like people would come on the show and say, hey, what's your problem, you know, and how can the panel of industry judges help you like overcome it, whether it be an opportunity or maybe, you know, advice or whatever the case may be. And I got hit up by the producers saying, hey, you know, we found your profile and stuff. Can you submit maybe like a minute video into us saying, hey, like, you know, why would you want to come on the show? So I did like a minute video, you know, saying, hey, I'm an upcoming artist and stuff. Maybe this could be a good branching platform if it's Australia-wide, not just New South Wales, but Australia-wide, to branch my name out there. They enjoyed it. You know, a few months later, I was on the show, and even to this day, man, I really wish I never went on the show, to be honest. But I went up, and I was on the panel and stuff, and David Hughes, he's like, all right, Mugzy, tell me a bit about yourself and stuff. So I'm telling my, you know, about my upbringing and that of like how I got into hip hop, and he's starting to make these like little slurs and stuff about my clothes and like, you know, the person I am and stuff, and the crowd's like laughing and stuff.
no.
And I'm like going like off balance of like what I'm trying to say, because I'm sort of like trying to figure out, okay, I'm explaining like, you know, my upbringing and that, and he's making these slurs, so I got to balance what, you know, counteract that and just, you know, like continue on track. So he's like, he goes, on our guest industry panel, there's a rapper called Matt O'Kine, and he runs a big, he's a comedian, rapper, and runs a radio station over here called Triple J, and he wants to rap battle with you. And I was like, all right, I really have to think on the spot now, because it's not just Sydney watching this, it's all of New South Wales, all of Australia. And I was just thinking, do not fuck up, because if you fuck up, like, you know, this is broadcasted or, you know, all over. So he goes up, and one of the industry panel women that was up there, you know, she was like, why don't you do like a minute on complimenting Husey, because he won like this Logie, this like kind of TV award thing for the year. And so Matt does this whole 1 minute of, you know, complimenting Husey and saying, you know, thanks for the opportunity on the show and da-da-da. But he doesn't diss me. So I'm like, all right, cool. So he's done that. Now it's my turn. And I think, one, I can compliment Husey and go on the guidelines, or I could compliment him and go on the attack with Matt, right? So, and like flip it in a sense and make him think, oh, fuck, where did that come from? You know? So anyways, I'm doing this, you know, my battle, and doing the reply, and there was a line I was going to use because I knew this guy was a huge fan of Eddie Murphy. Like, that was his golden grail, in a sense, of who he wanted to be. And the line I was going to use was, did I destroy your credibility? Maybe because did I destroy your credibility? Maybe because I'm raw and delirious like Eddie Murphy. And I lost that line. Like, something in my brain was building up to it, and I choked. And it was just like something in my brain was saying, this is not Sydney watching you. This is Australia watching you. This is your moment. And I just lost it. It was like just slap in the face. My mind just went blank. Yeah. And I was like, I fucked my line up. And then they were just like, the whole crowd like laughed and stuff. And I remember just like thinking in my mind, just hopefully when this airs, because like it was a recap thing, hopefully when this airs, Channel 7 will cut that out and like, you know, do the whole hero thing. And they never cut it out. They kept it in. And as an artist, you don't want to read the comments, man. Like, even though it's like negative and stuff, but it's at the same time like a drug of, you do want to read them at the same. It's weird, man. It's like you don't want to read them, but you do want to read them and stuff. Yeah. And I read them, man, and like every time I would refresh the page or the channel, it would just be like 30 comments. Next minute, refresh it, 300 comments, da 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 da. And it was just non-stop negative like comments of like, who the fuck is that guy? Da da da. You know, should do, well, you know, like all this sort of stuff. And man, to an artist, man, thinking, I just thought, fuck, like, I'm looked at now as the guy on Husey that fucked up his lines and stuff. And it was kind of like an anniversary of like, did I just sabotage my career in front of an Australian-wide audience, man, of that one line? And I just plowed my body, man. I plowed it like months on end through like just alcohol and smoking and stuff, to the point I was in a hospital bed, and I was like, fuck, man, that's just how damaging like this can be, you know? So
because nobody, we've talked to this a few times now. No one other than an artist knows how much eating shit hurt. You know what I mean? They'll say, oh, just pick yourself up and get over it. No, man, you don't. And they also don't know how hard it is and how incredibly brave it is to go up there in the first place and do that, right? So it's because it comes naturally to performers. People think it's easy to go up there on stage. It isn't. And it's even harder when you do, because I've had sets where I've eaten shit, you know, and you're looking at the crowd and they're not into it and you're not into it, and a little piece of you wants to just walk off, but you're like, no, I'm going to man up and chow through it. But the real battle is getting back up the next day. And, you know, continuing to do it, which of course you are doing it. And I hope your health is much better now. I'm glad to see that you're still with us, sir.
Oh, appreciate it, man. But no, like, I appreciate you doing this interview and vice versa on stories and different experiences, man. Like, kind of like in a sense, you kind of feel like the only one. I wonder if any other artists out there is doing it tough than me. But no, it's kind of nice in a sense. Well, not nice, like T, we're both going through struggles, man. But it's nice in a sense to know that I'm not fighting this battle alone, sort of thing,
And man, you're the first one to quantify it like that. But for me, that was the entire idea behind MattLees Gets Creative, is to show that idea of all us artists, whether we're writing books or painting pictures or directing movies or singing songs or trying to rap songs in Australia, we're all at our base, I think, the same. And I mean that complimentary. I just mean that I think our base needs and addictions and urges are the same. So these conversations are incredible because everybody has these vibes and these stories and these things. Like you said, I thought I was the only one,
Yeah, exactly, man.
So hopefully even people listening will get from this that you are not the only one. No, it's not just creative people that go through struggles. It's everyday people too. So keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you are not alone, because I just spent over an hour talking to Mugzy all the way from Australia on this podcast. You know what I mean? So it's a great thing. So thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for staying up till what is the middle of the night for you in Australia. Time difference hurts my brain. It's,
it is 2 a.m. right now, man. But honestly, I'm nocturnal. Like I stay up early hours of the morning. I'm like Batman. But man, firstly, man, I want to say a big shout out, thanks to you, man, and your show for even getting back to me, man, and setting this up. And hey, man, you have another friend, fan, follower here in Australia, man, and don't be a stranger, eh? Definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. I mean, it took balls. It's one of those things we talked about, things that take balls, and going out there. You messaging me took balls too, right? So I figure I could use some balls and message you back, and show you the mutual respect, and I'm happy to have the conversation with you. We'll definitely do that Tupac Biggie thing, though. We'll find a way to do it.
Oh, sure.
Make it a Patreon for this podcast, or my friends and I do a different podcast. Maybe we could do it on there. But like you said, we'll stay in touch. Last thing to do is drop all your contact info and where people can hear you, see you, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so my number one platform that I use, says you're searching it individually for like YouTube, Insta, all that kind of stuff. Check me out on Facebook. It's all attached into the one. On Mugzy, Mugzy, what's a worldwide, because that's Mugzy. Check me out. Keeps you up to updates with interviews like this, gigs, albums, and if you're an upcoming artist and stuff, hit up my inbox and I'll try and get back to you. So Mugzy on Facebook.
Great. Yeah. And I'll include that link in the show notes as well when this show goes up. So once again, man, thank you so much for doing it. I wish you continued success and happiness. And from one musician to another, keep your fucking head up, man, because I know it's tough out there.
Oh, for sure, man. You too. And hopefully we can cross paths one day on the big stage, 100%, man.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. The problem is, man, I'm scared of everything in Australia. Because I think everything in Australia is trying to kill me.
No, that's true, actually. Spiders, snakes, and not bears, but yeah, spiders and snakes, man. We've got a whole ton of them over here, but, we'll meet
in the middle somewhere. We'll meet in the middle somewhere. We could also collaborate on a song one day because technology allows that. So
I'm looking out for him for my third one, man. So when studio time comes along, I'll hit you up. 100%.
Sounds good, man. Talk to you soon. Thanks again, and all the best.
Later, man. Peace.
Next time on MattLees Gets Creative.
I'm a semi-professional traveling minstrel, I guess you could say, and recently have embarked on a project to create some games with a couple buddies of mine.
Christopher Marentet is a longtime friend of mine, and as he said, a minstrel. I've known him as a radio show host, a traveling musician, and now a game designer behind Krishada Games presenting The Earth Is Ours. We talked about creativity, its gifts, its curses, what it takes to actually design your own card game, because they want to bring back interaction between people. No screens, just people playing games, interacting together. He's my guest next time right here on MattLees Gets Creative. Please don't forget to follow us on social media at ML Gets Creative. Please listen, like, subscribe, share, and we would really, really, really appreciate it if you could find it in your heart to leave us a review. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.